Alright guys, what better motivator to make another video for you than a clean loft? Oh, I love a clean loft. I wish I'd had the motivation, the energy to do it more often. But again, I can only devote so much of my time, and when I need it the most in the racing season, that's where I put my energy in. But nonetheless, guys, what we are going to do today is go over the birds that did in fact make the cut and the birds that did not. You may notice out of the 12 boxes here, 2 of them are open, 2 are empty, I should say. Those birds did not make the cut for the following year for many reasons. And in fact, the bird in the bottom right corner, he actually bred a 300-mile race winner for us this year. And the reason he didn't make the cut is out of the 2 rounds of babies I bred out of the 4 youngsters, 2 died in the nest. Well, 1 died in the nest, 1 I had to call because he fell so behind, got so light, and I don't understand why. I don't want to put any energy on any bird that I don't have to. What I mean to say is, if you have 12 breeding pairs and 11 of those pairs do the job without any extra effort, why would I put any more energy on one bird? The bird was a trial bird. It was, we were trying to get something out of him for the following year, and even though he bred well, it's just not worth my time, guys, to breed so many to only get so many. I don't know if it's something he carries, maybe something the hen carries, but for some reason, out of the 2 nests, which is not a coincidence, I think there's something there, something negative there. 2 youngsters that didn't make it, and I don't like that. As for 693, we already knew 693 at the beginning of the season was his last year. A buddy of mine went over some of the ideas in our heads, and I think we came to the conclusion that he in fact was leaving the nest for too long. Not the hen so much, but I think when it was his turn on the nest, he would leave the eggs for too long. They would get chilled and the eggs would die, because that's exactly the problem I had. I'd have week-old eggs and they'd be fertile, and then within a couple of days they're dead eggs. I think we got 1 youngster out of him. Let me check my sheets. We did have 2 youngsters out of him. 1 made it to the very end. But because they were such late round babies, they didn't do much for me. My best performers are usually my first and second round. So I let him have that 3rd round because I was excited to get something out of him. But in fact, they didn't make it at all. So he is gone. He is not gone in terms of I did not call him or the bird in the bottom right corner. I handed them out to somebody that can use them. Maybe they can have better luck with them. Again, this bird was a race winner and a top performer at the distance. That bird bred a race winner, so I don't want to necessarily kill those birds. If somebody wants to put that extra effort into them to try to get youngsters, maybe switch some eggs under pumpers, or maybe put them on a different hen, see if things change, that's on them. I don't want to put that any more energy on those 2 birds. Now, with that being said, I follow a pretty crude method, guys. I just sort of sit on the couch. I go through all my breeding pairs. I write down how many birds, how many babies I got from each bird and what's left at the end of the season. So above each cock bird, we have how many youngsters they bred and what was left at the end of the season. You guys can see, wasn't very good. In fact, Jason was probably my biggest surprise of the year. I shouldn't have been as surprised as I was, but I sort of expected a little more from him. You know how that goes, guys. You sort of fall into that. He's got a beautiful pedigree. The hen was, had bred winners before. I expected a lot from him, and we bred 5 youngsters, and we had 1 left at the end of the year, and even that youngster didn't do anything. So no surprise, and you guys can look at the previous videos. I talked about Jason because his youngsters were so phenomenal in hand. Probably the best breeding pair of my however many I have here, because I did have a few in the hen's loft that I also wrote down. You guys can see there's more than 12 there. But he had by far the nicest youngsters out of the bunch. But as you guys can see, they didn't make it. And that's just how it goes. Some of my best breeding pairs for the year would probably be Connie. Connie bred 1 youngster, 1 single youngster. He made it through every single race, including the 500, being a second day bird on the 500. I mean, that's what you want. 1 freaking youngster, and he did so well. On top of that, gingerbread man, he bred 2 babies, very late round. Probably, they were his 4th round, I believe, and pretty much well past my deadline. But I wanted to use 2 youngsters, and it ended up breeding my best performing youngster of the season. Didn't win any races, but was in my top 10%, or in the top 10 birds to my loft 3 out of the 6 races. I mean, you can't, when you look at loft performance, myself, when I look at loft performance, I look at the birds that come home for me, and they're always in my top, because you're not going to win every race. You're not going to be in the top percentages every single race. Sometimes you'll fall behind depending on the wind, depending on the race. But you have to look at your own loft performance. And as for loft performance and being a 4th round youngster, he by far bred one of my best flying youngsters of the year. With that, let's see, because I do have, let me flip this around. Sorry guys, I should be better prepared, because I wrote down my performances as well. Again, I follow pretty crude. I don't like computers. Pen and paper is how I do things. Here are the races that I competed in. Here are the birds. The ones that are on a long list, like here, that was 18 on the drop. So I did in fact write all of them down, because I did not know which bird was the one pulling the rest home. Potentially more than one. Nonetheless, I always write my top percentages. Any bird that came in the top 10, top 20, I write those down. Any birds that came in the win, I write those down. There's my classic entries. And again, pretty crude. That's how I do it. It's pretty simple at the same time. Races, how many minutes behind I was on each race, and then the percentages, things of that nature. Here are the birds that made the cut. As you guys can see, 39, 55, which is Gingerbread Man, 16, which was out of Andre's cock, surprising enough, because it was his first year and a young cockbird at that, and 36 out of my birds. 36 was in fact out of 155. The bird that bred me my classic winner from 2020, he bred another 300-mile winner this year, outright 300. I can't talk enough about this bird. He's by far one of my best birds, possibly one of my foundation cockbirds in this breeding loft here. And he's done it. He did miss 2021. I didn't get much out of him. I did get youngsters, but they didn't do much. And that's common. Some years they just won't breed well for you. But this year he bred another one, and I'm thinking I found the key to his potential. We'll talk about that later, because I don't want this video to get too long. But yeah, again, bred a winner 2 times on the drop out of 6 races. I mean, you can't beat that. Boy Blue, another phenomenal breeder. I bred 4 out of him. We had 3 at the end of the year. Again, super good performance, I think, in my opinion, for my loft. And it's stuff I look forward, stuff I move forward with, I mean to say. Phoenix did not breed anything. I had 2 youngsters out of him. They did not make it. Andre's cockbird here, surprising enough, I put him on that nice little grizzle hen, and they bred one of my best performers of the year. I mean, it's crude, guys. It's crude. It's simple. But this is what I would recommend a lot of guys do. Don't focus so much on how you did in the races as much as how the birds did for you. Because some years you're just not going to do well. Some years you're going to miss. It's, the wind direction might be out of your favor every single race, but you got to look at how they do in your loft. And then you have to go over the breeding pairs, and you have to make that decision. Will I be moving forward with these birds, or will I not be? If it wasn't for my investment in Jason, I probably would not be moving forward with him, as just too many youngsters lost. But I do have a substantial amount invested in him, so I might as well try him one more year with a proven hen in my loft, and we'll give him another shot, guys. Apart from that, we have, what do we have here? 10 cockbirds. I am going to be bringing in 2 new additions. One is already here. He's outside. I have not added him yet, just for the purpose of this video. And then one that'll be shipped to me here in the next couple of days. I'm excited about that. I'm going to make a video about that as well. I'm actually pretty excited about that, to be honest with you. And I sort of want to make a separate video on that. But that's what we got, guys. The birds that made the cut, the birds that did not. Again, some did phenomenal. Some are just there. 1439. Again, he's been such a good bird for me. 300-mile race winner, has bred well in the past. This year, I bred him to his half sister. I think we covered that. His youngster also made it back from the 500 out of my 4 that made it back. It was his youngster, and then his youngster, Connie. So he went to Firebird. He went to Dennis at High Anxiety. I hope they do well. Hope we follow along and see how they do in the future. But that's what we got, guys. Hopefully I didn't make this video too long or too boring. Hopefully it's something for you guys to see. But we'll go from there. We'll go over the breeding pairs as I put them together, which will be in a few weeks. But luckily enough, I cleaned the loft because I got a bit of motivation to make one for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy. We'll see you on the next one, guys.